Okay, time for another viewer request video. One of the most common questions that I get on my channel and got most recently on a video that I posted about a week or so ago was, what other music do I listen to besides metal? What do you think I own? Like, don't I listen to other music? Like, the assumption of that was funny. Most of the time, not all the time, metal YouTubers only listen to metal music. Um, but no, that is not me. So yeah, you're right. I do listen to other music. Metal music probably takes up 90% of my listening habits, to be honest with you. But then there's occasional weeks where I will go um, and listen to stuff that's not metal music. I'll get kind of in a mood and just don't want to listen to it. Very, 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 very scarce does that happen. Doesn't happen very often, but it does. I recently went into a bit of a I don't know if it was like a depression. I don't know what it was, where I just didn't want to listen to anything metal. Really, at the end of the year, I was so burnt out by the time January came around. So I took a couple weeks off and didn't listen to anything new. Didn't listen to anything that I had in my collection. It was only listening to things that were not death metal, not black metal, not thrash. Every once in a while, traditional heavy metal got thrown in there. So I go in those waves. It's not very often, but you have to know, I was not raised on metal music. I came into it pretty. I mean, it was early in my life because of my brother, because that's what he listened to. But I grew up on classic rock and jazz and blues. That's what my first like true love of music was. And while I was uh, from the age 9 up until now, I learned how to play the clarinet when I was like 8 years old. When I was in school, I was in symphonies and I did plays, and I was in jazz band, I was in marching band, I competed as a clarinet soloist, like all those things. So I have a very musical background as well. I know how to play the guitar. I can play several instruments. I don't do that anymore, obviously. Guitar, every once in a while I'll pick it up, but in terms of like musically trained, I was into that. We competed in state competitions, won all 4 years. Like, I have a background in music, so that metal music was something that I segued into, and has just become my life later on. So I'm not like somebody who started listening to it when I was 10 years old and I've just been ingrained into the scene the whole time. That's not how it is. So somebody asked the other music that I like and what I want to what I listen to, and what I have in my collection, because my collection is not all death metal or black metal, thrash metal. My collection probably is larger. Probably have a larger non-metal collection in regards to my vinyl, and that's because I sold off about 90% of my metal collection due to being unemployed. Everybody knows that. But I kept a lot of stuff that I inherited, that I got from like my aunt and my uncles and my grandparents, and my parents and people, and stuff that I've like collected over the years that is really nostalgic to me, or people that have given to me, and a lot of it's non-metal. So I figured some of you guys wanted to see it. You wanted me to show it off, which makes me feel like you are curious because you also have a lot of this in your collection too. So I'll start with the CD. So I'm a huge Neil Young fan, and Harvest obviously is just a legendary record. And I recently picked up this box set that they reissued a couple of years ago on Harvest. It has like the DVD, all this stuff in here. It is a really nice CD box set. It was like $30, but it has the like remastered copy of it, and then it has in concert, like just a bunch of awesome extras added into this. A really, really nice booklet. And I still listen to this CD a lot. Like, I grew up on Neil Young. My mom and dad love Neil Young. This was a thing that I heard growing up my whole entire life. Even now, I still go over to my parents' house. My dad's got the Sirius XM radio blasting in the garage. Neil Young comes on. So there's like an outtakes DVD. There's the Harvest Time movie that was released back then. There's another BBC in concert. So yeah, this is a really, really nice box set if you're a Neil Young fan. I'm sure there's somebody on this channel that likes Neil Young, so I know I'm appealing to somebody here. But this was the 50th anniversary box set that was released, I think last year is when this came out. So yeah, huge Neil Young fan. Also, something you should know about me is I am a huge Chris Cornell fan. I was pretty devastated when he passed away several years ago. So I do have the Chris Cornell CD box set. This is pretty much like a compilation of all of his works from Soundgarden, Temple of the Dog, Audio Slave, Solo Works. So it's a really nice box set. Obviously, Soundgarden CDs. I still listen to Soundgarden pretty frequently. And then his soloing stuff. He's just an incredible musician. I've always loved Chris Cornell. So I'm a sucker for the stuff that they reissue with him. So those are some of the CDs I pulled. The tapes I showed off in the last collection, my tape collecting video, but I have Led Zeppelin tapes, I have Steely Dan tapes, I have Yes, I have Pink Floyd, I have Genesis, Phil Collins. Like, I have a huge tape collection of all of those styles of music too. I pulled some records that I have, some ones I thought that would be pretty fun to show off. Rick, actually, over Dreadful Minutes, Rick saw this sitting on my shelf a while back, and this is the Police Synchronicity. I'm a huge Police fan. I love their music. I like Sting too, and I like some of his soloing stuff, but I prefer him in the Police, and this is one of my all-time favorite albums. So this is a copy that I inherited through my aunt. After my uncle passed away, she let me go through his collection, and I pulled a bunch of stuff, and I kept it. It's all in great condition. The record, it has a few scuffs on it, but it still plays pretty well. The sound quality is not the best, but I thought this was pretty cool. It still has an insert in here to order some mail order stuff, so that was still in the record. So yeah, I figured I'd show this off because Rick pointed this out. Rick, we still gotta do that video, man. Let's do it. So yeah, I'm a huge Police fan. Just straight up good vibes music that they put out. I'm also a big Van Morrison fan. Moondance this is probably one of my favorite releases by him. He's got like 50 albums out though, so it's hard to distinguish my favorites because there's been so many. But this is a really nice gatefold. Again, I inherited this from my aunt after my uncle passed away. The sleeve is probably in good condition, and the record is in even better, immaculate condition. But man, look at that old paper sleeve. I need to swap out a lot of these with some better inner sleeves. Just haven't got around to it yet. The MoFi sleeves. So yeah, big Van Morrison fan. I love this album, so I figured I'd pull that out. I essentially pulled out some of my all-time favorite albums that are not metal music. On top of classic rock, I'm also a huge jazz fan, and my jazz records are probably some of the most expensive records that I own in my collection. And I started buying audiophile ones, so what that means is Blue Note has been putting out these high-fidelity audiophile pressings. They're called, God damn it, I'm blanking right now. The Tone Poets. So yeah, John Coltrane's Blue Train, obviously, simply phenomenal. This is the stereo version. There's a mono version as well. But yeah, if you're a jazz fiend, and you know, this is just a must-have in your collection in terms of jazz music. This is actually the fourth copy that I have of this. I have several other copies too. This is obviously the best sounding one. This is like the audiophile expensive one. And then most recently I snagged this at a record store back in December. Was probably the last time I went. Horace Silver, another Blue Note reissue. This is the classic series, though. These aren't the Tone Poets. So not the audiophile version, but still sounds phenomenal. I love Horace Silver, so if you're a jazz fiend, then you know this album. So I have hundreds of jazz albums, and mostly I tried for a long time. When I first started collecting vinyl, I tried to collect like every Blue Note issue, and now that they're reissuing them, it's making me a lot easier for me to do. Also, the classic jazz, I'm completely blanking now. And then a lot of the craft recordings that they've been coming out with. So I obviously stopped buying these due to cost. But when I'm able to, I will go back to it. I love watching all of the YouTube videos. The Jazz Bums are one of my favorite streams that they do. Collecting jazz music is... I get a high from it like I do with metal music. So moving on, Steely Dan. I'm a huge fan of Steely Dan. Aaron, metal theologian, I know you can't stand Steely Dan. I get it. I understand why people don't like him. While Donald Fagen is an acquired taste, Steely Dan's a very acquired taste. But this is a band that I grew up on. It was always playing in my house. My parents absolutely loved Steely Dan. I even had a friend in high school named Steely, so he was obviously named after Steely Dan, which is funny If you Google Steely Dan, I'm not going to talk about what it is, but yeah. So Aja is one of my favorite albums that they have out, but I have every single album of theirs. This is just probably one of my prized possessions. It's not worth a whole lot, but it is a first pressing. And it has like this really funny sticker on it. It says Superstars at Super Savings, MCA Records, 1981. So maybe it's not a first pressing. It actually might be a second pressing. I don't know. I have like 5 versions of this. But there you go. This is just the one that I pulled. I just got the most recent UHQR audiophile pressing from Analog Productions. Very chef's kiss, one of the best sounding albums. But I have all of the Steely Dan albums. This is just one of my all-time favorite bands. Again, more good vibes music. If you just want to listen to some easygoing, fun music, that's very good. There you go. So, of course, Led Zeppelin. This is my favorite Led Zeppelin album, Physical Graffiti. I have every single one of their albums on vinyl. None of them are original presses. I do. Actually, that's not true. In and Throughout the Door, I think I have the original press. And then maybe Houses of the Holy that I inherited. But most of these are reissues that have come out in recent years that I have. So this one is the 40th anniversary 180 gram on vinyl. This was remastered and produced by Jimmy Page. So this is the Jimmy Page remasterings, but there are better options out there, and there are several YouTubers that have videos on what pressings you should buy and what you should try to hunt down, but they are super expensive, which is why I haven't tried to get them. Obviously, Pink Floyd I've showed off again, but this is a first press. Dark Side of the Moon that I have in my collection. I would say it's in like good condition in terms of the jacket. There's some wear and tear, but the record itself is in mint condition. This again was also inherited into my collection, and something I will show you guys, you vinyl nerds that know how big of a deal this is. Still has the poster that came in mint condition. Still has a little bit of yellowing, obviously. And there were the postcards, like the postcard stickers. Here they are. Yeah. So, I mean, I know that that's pretty collectible. People search for the ones that still have these. Like, look at how yellow that is. So, yeah, I don't know. Did it come with 4? There was only 2 in this one that I got from my aunt from her collection. But, yeah, I know that those were a hot commodity. And people often look for those when they try to get this record. So, yeah. One that I will never sell. Obviously, the jacket's not in the best condition. It's seen somewhere, but the vinyl itself is in mint, pristine condition. I've cleaned it up. I've treated it well. But, yeah. So, that's like a grail of mine. Also, a huge Elton John fan. I pulled off one of the funnier ones, one of the more obscure Elton John albums that people probably don't know much about because it still has the price tag on it. And also, the cover is just gold. Look at that. $2 back in the heyday of when vinyl was basically worth nothing. And then just check this out. Oh yeah, look at that band photo. Yeah, so this is a pretty good one. Another one that I inherited. So here we go. We have so good. Look at that Elton John picture. Really nice printed inner sheet here. Still in great condition. And then another one with the lyrics. And then the record itself is in pristine condition. So I have every Elton John album, which is a lot. Most of them are first presses that I inherited from my aunt and uncle's collection after he passed away. And I have several reissues as well that have come out in recent years, just so that way I'm not always playing the OGs. And some of these are not in the best condition. The records are scuffed or have a little bit of scratching. So this one is in pristine condition. Again, here's another Elton John one. I pulled this one because it's a little bit more obscure. Not a lot of people know to listen to this one. This is the mono version of it. Look at that. Pretty awesome. Again, this is one that's in pretty good condition. So, and then finally, the last thing to talk about. My favorite band is Genesis. Both the Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins eras, huge fans of, and I have every single Genesis CD and every single Genesis record, as well as every single Phil Collins CD and every Phil Collins record and tape. Phil Collins is probably my favorite musician, artist as a whole. A lot of people find that very shocking when they learn that about me because I'm a huge death metal simp. And then they're like, Phil Collins. Yeah, man. I don't know. Everybody's got that one left ball, that curve ball in their musical listening habits. This is my all time favorite album ever, and that is Duke, Genesis. My favorite, just, I grew up on this album. Um, it's just been ingrained in me. My mom is a huge Phil Collins fan, so was my dad. Huge Genesis fans. Like, I just remember my dad always wore this Genesis "We Can't Dance" shirt. Actually, it was from the tour, I Can't Dance tour. And he always wore it. It was a white shirt with the dancing guys on the front, and he wore that thing. He might even still have it. He probably still wears it, but it's got holes in it. It's got stains all over it. Like, it was a work shirt at that point, and he still wore it all the time. So, that those listening things have been passed down to me. So, Genesis is one of those bands that is very, very sentimental to me, and like just all around absolutely, absolutely love. So I am looking to get more copies of this. This is not even an expensive record to get. You can go into basically any record store and you can find this sitting on the shelves. And most of the time it's first pressings, but generally in shitty conditions. So this is a reissue that came out fairly recently. Might have been 2021. No, 2007. So that's not very That's not very recent, but I'm hoping to find some more copies of this. I love this album so much. I love this band. So yeah, I figured I would talk about that too. I'm a big prog music fan, and that shows a lot with a lot of things that I love in metal, because I do tend to really fall in love with the proggier side of metal, and it doesn't bother me. So prog is a huge thing in my life. Yes is another band I listen to, but that's not even like the prog that I listen to. Like, there's a lot more of like softer prog that I like the Alan Parsons Project and stuff like that. But I figured Genesis I talked about, at least tell you guys, show it off. I just pulled this one, but I have back there on the second shelf is all of my Genesis albums. And I have a lot of the new Analog Productions, Atlantic 75 series pressings that are like audiophile pressings. I have all of those so far that have come out. There's a couple more that are coming out this year, towards the end of the year. Hopefully I'll be able to snag those. But yeah, so that's pretty much all the music I listen to that's not metal music. Do I listen to pop music? Not a whole lot. My family does, like my wife and my kids do. They're really into what's popular, and that's the only reason why I know what it is from being around them. And when we're in the car together, that's what they listen to. They blast it all throughout the house, all that stuff. My youngest son is really into hip hop that's appropriate for him. He's also a dancer and dances hip hop, so that's probably why. So some old school hip hop I don't mind, like Dr. Dre, NWN, Tupac, Wu-Tang Clan. I do have several things of hip hop in my collection. It's all old school hip hop records. Some modern day hip hop I don't mind, but it's really just not my thing a whole lot of the time, most of the time these days. And then anything else besides that, country music, fuck no. I do not like techno, whatever the hell that shit's called. Not a huge fan of industrial either. Not a huge fan of like indie rock. Is that what it's called? Like Modest Mouse. I don't. Oh God, I can't do that stuff. I don't like music like that. So yeah, 20 minutes. I should probably end this video. Okay. I don't really. Yeah. Let's just say this. 90% of my listening habits is death metal. And that's what I listen to, and that's what I have been buying. But I go through waves of where I want to listen to other music, and I will. I'm not ashamed of it. And do with that what you will. Let me know in the comments what you guys like that's not my music. I know a lot of you don't only listen to metal music. I know that you subscribe to me for that reason, but it's good to have these one-off viewer request videos. So let me know. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.